Everybody has to know and find their why. I think I said it for a couple of weeks. My why is to honor God. Any chance I get out there, any opportunity I get out there to praise Him and worship Him with my play, that's what I'm gonna do. So that's my why. That's the reason why I play. And every guy, however many players it is in the locker room, there's gonna be a bunch of different whys, and you have to find your why and get out there on Sunday and play to the best of your ability.
Tony and I are back again with another podcast, and we have the same old story about the Commanders losing yet again to the Los Angeles Rams. Tony, the Commanders, a bad football team, and it's bad coaching. Where do they go from here, Tony?
Well, you know what? I think that the last three games, which they have the possibility of winning one, are very important for these guys to interview. You know, our motto, and we talk here on In the Minute, we always say we never say goodbye, but some of these players got to say goodbye because they're playing for jobs that they don't have any longer. And when you take a look at it, I don't feel sorry for them, Donna. If you do not do your job on this show, we're going to fire you. You know that.
No, we need to go on and fire you, Tony, because you've been not telling the truth, Tony. About this team. You've been trying to have hope and whatever instead of just looking at the big picture, Tony. This team is not good. The coaching has not been good. Ain't no, Tony, you can't even sprinkle a little bit of sugar on this because
what do you think, Donna? Everything was so hot for them going in. Everybody thought this was the big turnaround, and Ryan have done a decent job. And someone pointed out the other day he hasn't really never got over 8-9 wins a season. But at the same time,
well, how is that a decent job, Tony? How is that a decent job?
What did we have before that?
Hey, let me just say this. When have they been to the Super Bowls? Not at all. But we grade people, Tony, on wins and losses. When you look at Ron Rivera's career here in Washington, you say it's decent and whatever, but where has he taken them football-wise? Has this team gotten better over the stretch of Ron Rivera's career here?
In the early part, they did. And then even in the part when he was dealing with health issues, they seem to get better. But to me, it seemed like, as they say, he gets stuck at a certain number. Just like we've had this quarterback problem the last 3 or 4 years, and Cam Newton is just sitting out there. You agree with him. You don't think Cam – why wouldn't you bring in a Cam Newton who took you to the Super Bowl at one time?
That was years ago, Tony. Like I said, you know what? You're saying that Ron Rivera hasn't done a bad job. He has not been successful since he's been here overall, Tony. This team has not been going in the right direction. The vehicle has been going backwards, Tony. It's been going reverse because it has not been going forward for this team to be better. I mean, they start off looking like they're going to do good, and then the bottom falls out of the barrel. So, Tony, he has not been successful. I don't even know why you're trying to spread the icing on this to make it look good because it hasn't not been a good marriage for him and this team. And when you look at this team right now, Tony, against the Rams, the last 5 games, last 4 games, this team has been going backwards. Let's start right with Sam Howell. Tony, he struggled in that Rams game. He's still struggling to get rid of the ball quickly. His progressions, as far as his execution, some of the balls that he's throwing, he shouldn't let loose. What has happened to him right now? Because to me, he seems like he's shell-shocked because what the Rams did in that game is that they threw a lot of different things at him defensively, and they said, beat us. I mean, they disguised things. They looked like they were bringing guys on, as far as the pass rush, and then they would back off and then go into a 2 cover. It seemed like he is being confused so much more right now. And right now, I don't know what's happening. To me, he's taking steps backwards. What's your assessment of him?
Well, they call it sophomore slump. And you think about he only played 1 game last year. He's played this year. Now they got about 10 games of film on here. And when they get that, a team will really know how to attack you, see where your weaknesses are. Just as you portrayed right there, that holds the ball too long, maybe throws it in the wrong places, maybe don't run when he should and run when he shouldn't. But at the same time, that's all a growth problem that he has to deal with. Now what it is, he's starting to doubt himself probably somewhat. But at the same time, this happened to a lot of, not just at the quarterback position, this happened to a lot of players in their second year. With that being said, you do always have to go back to the offensive line. I think had he had a better offensive line, he'd have been a better player. But at the same time, even with offensive line, when you have as many turnovers as they have, you can't turn the ball over. You think about the losses they've had, close game, and always come down to a pick six or a missed field goal or getting in the red zone and not. They're getting close, but they're not completing. So what it's going to look at now, they're going to look at these last three games and decide. I remember one of my first years in New England, we ended up 2-14 or 2-14 or something like that. They got rid of everybody but 7 players. And we end up start going to Super Bowls and playoffs and stuff. They may have to do that here. They got to clean up. First of all, we know they got to revamp the offensive line.
They need at least 3.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got a defensive line that they need to get some more rushers in there now, either change up the defense, whereas they can get some help for the 2 big boys in the middle. Then you got defensive backs that are high draft choices that they still are getting beat. Now, as I said, they're young players, and you know Darrell Green very well, and you saw him when he started. When they're young players, that's going to happen. But see, when you get up and agitate the other team and you point to the fans and everything, then the next play, we do not even see you on the screen. You can't have that. So that defensive back either going to have to get gone or get better. So you look at those 3 positions right there. We don't even mention linebackers anymore, which, now, Donna, do you not agree that they have start playing a little bit better at the linebacker position?
All I know is we need to draft a linebacker also. That's an area that we need also.
If they have played a little better.
If I'm drafting offensive lineman and I'm drafting a linebacker, because I think that those are 2 areas of this team that, to me, that they need, that has been struggling for at least 5-10 years or so forth. And the offensive line, Tony, I'm going back to the quarterback situation. The offensive line is what it is, because I think that during the offseason, they did not address this for 5 or 6 years, the offensive line. But but the thing about it is the offensive line doesn't throw any balls. When we were going back to Sam, it's been struggles there because he hasn't had the time to throw, but they still have not thrown one ball. Because when you look at Sam's production over the last 3 weeks or so, in that last Seattle game was the last time that this Commanders team had over 300 and some yards offense. And you look at Sam, he had a solid game against Seattle, even though they didn't win. But you look at his production the last 3 weeks, it's been going backwards, Tony. Late throwing balls, his execution, bust plays, not getting the receivers the ball on time, missing wide open receivers. That's what I'm talking about in the struggle. So I ask you, in staying with Sam, in moving forward with this team, and Jacoby Brissett said that Sam has the upside and he's confident in this quarterback play in moving forward with Sam. He said that he likes what he sees in that. But when you look at Sam and what this organization wants to do with new ownership, is Sam the quarterback of the future? Because he may have an upside, and it depends on, is this organization wanting to win quickly, and is Sam the quarterback for this team to win quickly? So I'm not for sure if Sam is the guy moving forward for this organization, depending on how quickly do they want to turn around things, and if Sam can be that quarterback to do that. What is your assessment on Sam? And also, I want you to answer, should Jacoby Brissett be the quarterback moving forward? Because Ron Rivera said in his press conference that if this team was in contention for the playoffs, then Jacoby probably would be playing.
That's where I feel. And I feel now, why play him, let him start. Let Howell finish out the year. Let's see what he has. But let's go and hit the problem.
Ain't you had enough games to see what he has?
Well, you evaluate all the games, going all the way back to even last year. And you look and you see, when you start seeing the same, it's like they said, the first time you see something, it's an incident. And then the second time you see it is a coincidence. But the third time it's a pattern. So you look at the patterns that he have are not good. Next thing you look at, let's fix the problem that they take all the, put the onus on him to get good. And that means fix the offensive line. Then once he got a good offensive line in front of him, if he cannot perform up to the level that they want, then he's not your quarterback. I think you still should bring in a quarterback and put some pressure on him. Brissett would be the starter, and I agree with Ron on that. But for what? He's not going to win the job in the next 3 games.
But he could win the games. He could win the games.
So what? You coming out with 7 wins, and they got about 12 teams with 7 wins.
Winning, Tony? Isn't it about winning?
Oh, you just want to win for them. What do you think winning is about? It's about getting to the Super Bowl, winning the whole thing, being the best in the world.
I'm a winner, Tony. I'm a winner. I'm not going into game. I want to go into games with the best people to win games. I don't care if they're not going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl. It's still about winning games. I know everybody's, looking for the Commanders to move up in the draft. If they don't win the last 3 games, they'll move up higher in the draft. But if you don't pick the right personnel, what does that mean moving forward? I'm about winning. If Jacoby gives me the best position to win in the last 3 games, then guess what? I'm going with him. I know at this point, you know what you got in Sam. He's getting ready to, Tony, face 3 of the best defensive teams. The Jets, despite their records, Tony, the Jets are 5-9 right now. And despite their record right now, Tony, they got one of the best defensive units in football. And also you got the 49ers next. And Tony, then you got the Dallas Cowboys. It does not get easy for the Commanders because, look, the Jets got 2 top starters as far as pass rusher. They got 14.5 sacks, Tony, 30 quarterback carries. That's what Sam is facing this week, Tony.
And I know it's going to be tough, and you got to think about that. But at the same time, you got to start back with why would we put Brissett in there at this? He did do a good job of what for? And then you
have him win.
Well, you don't want to break the young man's break his confidence. You don't want to just take it right away from him because he understands he's not playing as well as he should. But at the same time, I think you fix the problems around him and find out, is he your man? Now, these last 3 games, believe it or not, Donna, and I'm not saying it's all players, but it's some players that do not want to play these games, or they've gone the whole year and they're not going to the playoff and they don't want to be hurt. I've seen that a lot of times. So you have to look not only at the players that we have been speaking about, but you look at the whole team and you'll see where they are. When you see guys standing around with their heads down or their hands on their hips, and you see guys sitting on the bench not trying to edge the team on, which that seems to be something the NFL do now. We used to stand up for our offense when they were out there. In other words, I'm describing what a real team does. So you got 3 games. Really, the only thing they're playing for these games is for a job for next year and not always here. And you can say what you want. You can say put Brissett in. What is he going to put him in? He just shown he can play, and now you're going to get him hurt last 3 games.
I want him to be put in if he gives us the better chance, Tony.
How many playoff games will you play this year?
But how many games you got left? Do you want to just say, I'm just going to get the L? Or do I put the guy in with the best? But one thing that we probably will see is if Sam does struggle in these next 3 games, then Ron Rivera probably will put in Jacoby doing some stretch of the game. If he sees, just like the Rams game, that Sam is getting beat up by an offensive line that hasn't held up all season long. And right now, they're nursing injuries too. But Tony, again, you look at the Jets right now, their quarterback situation, everybody was wondering, was Aaron Rodgers coming back for what, as you say, but he's not. I don't know who's going to be. Hold
your point. You just answered everything I told you you need to say. You
Two
said,
different
why?
situations. Two different
Same damn
situations.
percent.
Because
Why would he
Aaron
come
Rodgers,
in?
Tony, Aaron Rodgers is still not 100%.
Too
How you
late,
gonna
Donna.
come
You
back with
answered
that
the
too?
question.
Well, how you gonna come back with? It's totally different two situations with the Commanders and Jacoby.
Okay, tell me
Because
what
Jacoby
the
is healthy. And with the Jets right now, Tony, I mean, really, we don't know who's going to be the quarterback this week because they're going through some quarterback shuffling too. But one thing that you can say about the Jets is that their defense is going to come and give Sam every look that he could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And when you look across their, as far as their defense unit overall, I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, they may be losing as a team, but their defense is one of the best in the NFL, like I said before. So when you look at the production of this Commanders offense, I mean, they're going to have their hands full against the
challenges that the Jets defense, which is pretty good, posed for you all.
Yeah, they're really good against the pass. They have versatile players up front. They have really good linebacker play, and they have really good players in the back end. So they have difference makers on all three levels of the defense, and they do a good job of keeping plays in front of them. But they also do a good job of being aggressive with their front and creating pressure and allowing their DBs not to have to cover for so long. So for us, we have to do a great job of neutralizing them up front. The receivers have to do a good job of keeping the spacing against their zone coverages and making contested catches because they have two really good corners and their safety play is really good as well. So we definitely got our work cut out for us, but we're looking forward to it definitely.
Could you talk a little bit about the red zone play as far as what you all can do in the red zone to get into the end zone?
Everybody has to do their job, I think, especially because the field condenses a lot more once you get down. There's not a lot of room to move, so you have to be very efficient when you're down there. You can't afford negative plays. We can't afford drops. We can't afford to miss assignments, miss blocks. So again, just tying it back to the details of executing the game plan and. Once we finally get on the doorstep, we got to knock the door down. It's not good enough just to get down there and take away 3 points or be fighting to get in on fourth down. Like, we got to get in there and finish the drive because we work so hard to get down there, so we have to figure out a way to get it in.
Well, they're going to have their hands full, but the same thing about it, you better play with the same intensity. And you better play like you're looking for a job as well, because if you can't do the job, somebody else will. So, it's a lot of things that there are some things at stake. But at the same time, if you take a look at this, they've blown so many games. You tell me what will hurt you even more if you go up and Dallas beat you and you did not win any games in your division this year.
Zero.
You hear what I'm talking about? Games. And the bad thing about that, Donna, it's teams right now with 7 wins that may make the playoffs.
And not only that, the Commanders are at the bottom of the division.
Exactly.
Below the Giants, who's supposed to have been the team that struggled this year, but the Commanders are dragging the bottom of the barrel, Tony. But look, the Jets, you being a pass rusher yourself, Tony, you got to like these two guys, edge rushers, Bryce Huff and Jeremy Johnson, two of the best in football, Tony. And when you look at those two guys, and I think about Montez Sweat being gone, and I know everybody is talking about that this week. With the Commanders, he had 6.5 sacks. He still is the leading sack rusher for the Commanders, and he's gone, Tony, ever since he's been gone. And then up in Chicago, and I know it's a different defense. I know that the situation is different, but he has 6.0 sacks up there with Chicago, and I know everybody was saying, did they make the right move? I still think that Montez Sweat should be a Commanders, and I know that you would have had to pay him a lot of money to keep him here, but it's hard to find pass rushers. So I know that we spend a lot of money on the defense over the last probably 5 years, but exactly. To let somebody go that that can get the job done, I still don't understand that, but the defense, Tony, has been underperforming all this season, and the guys up front, which to me is the most disappointing with Payne and Allen. And although Payne had a pretty good game against the Rams, and so did Hudson, the guy that was as far as Khalid Hudson, those two guys probably had the better performance against the Rams. But the underperformance, Tony, up front on the defensive line, as far as Payne and Allen and across the board, has that disappointed you the most since you played up on the line?
Oh, well, yeah, in a way, but it disappoints. It doesn't it matter as much now that you've gotten rid of your two best pass rushers. You talking about Sweat? He's in 12.5 sacks. And I tell you, when the last time have Washington had somebody that had 12.5 sacks? And the thing about it was, I felt he was the better, but they didn't want that controversy of having to not pay Chase or maybe getting rid of Chase. And Chase was the poster guy for the team, so you look at that. But the one thing about it, pass rushers are rare. And when you get two good ones, just like you're saying with the Jets, just like you're saying with Dallas, just like you're saying with the Eagles, just like you're saying now with San Francisco, you got two good. You never get rid of those if you don't have to, because that's going to keep the quarterback bottled up and flush him up into the tackle. But when you don't have that rush now, I look at these young guys they have now, and they're basic rushers. And when I say basic, mean they're doing their job, but they're not doing the spectacular. And that's what this team needs right now. But I still go back to, and I can live with the linebackers down. I can live with them right now. They've improved somewhat. They're still weak on the quick outs.
Somewhat is not good enough, Tony. Somewhat is not good enough.
I know it, but then now you got to look at, we jumping on the players, but let's rethink this organization the last 20 years. Let's rethink how many, like you said, they've gone defense the last 5 or 6 years. How many of those players are even still here, the first rounders? Think about it. We got
that the Commanders let go.
Exactly. So that has to mean that it wasn't just the players. It wasn't just the front office, but it was the whole organization. So that's what they're going to have to change. And that's what I think will happen with these new guys. They're going to change the organization. They're going to bring the winning attitude here. And it has to start with, you got to clean the house. And I mean, you keep the ones that show you they want to be here, but even as hard as it is, you got to let the ones that are not performing and act as if they do not want to be here, got to let them go.
Take the broom and just sweep them on out is what you're saying. But let's talk about the sweeping of the Commanders as far as bad decisions right here. The long snapper, Tony, has struggled all season long in Cameron Cheeseman. And this past Monday, the Commanders, after the Ram game, let him go. I mean, it was a debacle of bad snaps again. They almost got their best special teams player hurt as far as
It all happened very fast, but two thoughts went through my head. One, I could be a legend and potentially run this. But also, at the same time, I looked and saw three guys, and I hit the fetal position and then got smacked. Yeah. And I was laying there, and I don't know how many breaths, like physiologically you have in your body, but all of mine got knocked out at one point, and I was just laying there, like, couldn't breathe. And then the concussion doc was giving me a hard time, thinking I had a concussion. He's like, well, why did it take you so long to get up? I was like, I couldn't breathe, so I was just trying to catch my breath and get up. And then once I was in the tent and, even on the field, I was trying to tell the team docs and stuff. I was like, hey, somebody just tell Cheese I'm all right. My neck's tight, my shoulder's hurting, but I'm okay. And then my family was there too. So I was like, just text my wife, tell them I'm okay, things like that. But there was a moment there where I was laying there collecting my thoughts thinking, holy smokes.
He came back into the game, but this is a decision that Ron Rivera decided in 2021 to draft Tony, to move up to trade for a long snapper. So he traded up, Tony, for a long snapper, and that was in Cameron Cheeseman. Remember, they had Nick Sundberg, that was one of the best long snappers in football at the time, Tony. Had not struggled. Sunburst was here, I think, from 2010 to 2020. And then when Ron Rivera, basically in that transition, when Ron Rivera came in, he decided that he wanted to trade up for a long snapper, and it has not worked out because you look at the stretch of of Cheeseman's career with the Commanders, he struggled, Tony. And this year, it's been snaps that have been high, the whole 9 yards. It was the debacle. So when you look at that as far as the decision to trade up, and then you get rid of a guy that had been solid for the Commanders as long snapper in Nick Sundberg, how do you see that, Tony, as far as, like I said, it's been bad decisions with this team from one end to the other as far as personnel that they bring in, that they get rid of, the wrong people. And this is one of the instances, again, that, they brought in the wrong person and let the right person go.
You know what, I've heard before about trading up to get a good kicker and everything, but I've never heard about a long snapper. I'm not saying long snappers are easy to find, but at the same time, you don't have to trade up to get a long snapper. Then once you get one in here and he's messing up, then that's need be just like a kicker. Start interviewing people, get someone in it, because he's too important to the whole actual play. If he doesn't do his job, the play's not going to work anyway, and we've seen that during the course of the year. Yes, they had to get rid of him, but the only thing they did wrong was they should have got rid of him before. One thing about it is I'm not feeling sorry for these high-paid guys that's being paid for potential and they do not deliver. Then you see them in the paper, and you see them on the field acting like they've played Super Bowl games and everything. They haven't done it. And you know what? In my era, and I know all older players always talk about what we did, but the one thing about it is we wanted to win. We wanted to be the best team. We wanted to work on, just like, I don't know if they still do it, and we used to take film home every night and study these different players and everything. We weren't worried about who see us or anything, was getting the job done. That's what this whole league need to do better. That's what the Commanders need to do better. But as I said, you can't let a long snapper create a problem for your whole special team. That's what they did. So, we have to look back down, and we can't just blame no coach. We just can't blame players. We just can't blame the front office. We can't blame the owner, but all of them were involved.
All of them played a part in this party, Tony. All of them came to the party. But
Exactly.
Look, with Nick Sundberg, going back to him, because with Cheeseman, he struggled early in the season, and Coach Rivera was looking to bring in long snappers back early in the season when he was messing up with the snaps. But they kept him on because I don't know if they found anybody better. But let me just say with Nick Sundberg, 11 seasons, Tony, from 2010 to 2020. And also he was one of the most reliable long snappers in football. And for them to come in, Ron Rivera, to come in and make that change when nothing was wrong at that moment, to change to a guy that has never panned out. That goes back again about bad decisions to this team overall. But Tony, in closing, let's talk about the problems that the Commanders have had in the red zone against the Rams. They're in the red zone at least 7 times on the 1 yard line, Tony, and they can't punch the ball in. Not the first time that they've had this problem, but talk to Terry McLaurin about the red zone problems and what they're going to try to do to help the situation against the Jets. But when you look at that, and you can't punch it in with your running backs from 1 yard a number of times, 4 times at least in one drive, what does that say about this team overall and then they try to run up the middle over and over, Tony, which that to me has been one of their downsides. They're not going to run up the middle. They cannot run up the middle because of the offensive line and no push there. But to get down there on the 1 yard line, Tony, over and over and can't punch it in, that is, to me, is the most disappointing thing about this offense.
And that means they're not physical enough. That's the one thing about when you get in the red zone and you get down in the 10, 5 yard line, you got less field to work with. And the individuals can get better coverage. That's why if you can run the ball, as you would notice as we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, everyone is starting to pick it up. But they have a quarterback that can squat 600, and they got 4 linemen that put their noses in the dirt, and they make it happen. What do? We run in plays, we reverses, throwing out to the side, getting screens because we can't run it. We've had at least 4 or 5 situations during the course of the year where we could have won maybe 4 or 5 more games had we been able to handle ourselves in the red zone. But once you even talk about them, that still goes back to A, the line, B, the quarterback, C, the coordinator.
And we're not even going to get on, and I know I said that was it.
Yeah, you are. I don't even want to hear that.
Tony, look, I just got to call this out. We're not going to get on the defense that gives up those big plays over and over again where the receiver is just running wide open. Cooper Kupp, he's not one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL, but he's running free, Tony. Nobody is even close to him, wide open. We've seen this happen all season long as far as the secondary. And not only that, Tony, giving up 5 to 10 yard cushion on these receivers. Also, you already gave them a first down, Tony, giving up that much cushion. You got to be able to play up on these receivers. I don't care about if you think you're going to get beat. You already beat if you're giving them up 5 to 10 yards. What are you seeing in the breakdown still? Has Ron Rivera, since taking over the defense, made the defense better?
No, well, let's back up. Cooper Kupp is one of the best receivers in the game. He's been hurt. He's been hurt this whole year, and that's why their record is pretty much what it is. But that still makes no difference that players are running free. Anybody, I could look at like the best player in the game if they blow the coverage as much as they have. So there we go back to the defensive back. And then the defensive back say, well, maybe they're not getting enough pressure up front. No, it's all a combination. And that's what football is about. It's a team sport. If you can win it by yourself, you only need one person. If you need all 11, you need them out there. I look at this and it goes back also to the front office, just like you said with the punter, just like you said with the long snapper. These are decisions they made. They wanted to bring in their people. Well, now their people will be leaving with them, which I hate that because I would have liked to have seen them have a whole year of everybody being together, everybody playing. And, I mean, look what Sweat. Had they not gotten rid of Sweat and Chase, they probably would have 4 more wins, and they would be right in the thick of the playoffs. And see, I just don't know what that thought process. And you keep wanting to get rid of enemy, or you want to talk.
No. Let's go back. I didn't say that I wanted to get rid of him. I said that they may not want to keep him. They, not me.
Okay. I'm glad you straightened that out because I've been feeling bad about that ever since I was thinking that. So
yeah, that's because you just like this Commanders team. Don't listen.
Well, you know what? They listen, they can't do. That's the problem. It's just like we said with that saying. You don't stay at the table when love's not being served anymore. And that's what's happening here. And I'll tell you what, if you look at it, though, the bad thing about it, even in last week's game, you saw glances of them improving in places. But the only thing about their improvement, they always do something that they've been doing that's negative. So that means it's not a whole team effort. And that's why these owners are going to look at that. I don't know what moves they'll make. I do hope they give Bieniemy a chance. Because if you can't see how important him is, go out there and ask Kansas City. Ask them how they feel without having him. It's not just the receiver. It was him as well. So
Tony, you can see the difference since he's been gone from Kansas City. I mean, even with Patrick Mahomes is about ready to strangle his receivers that keep dropping balls and everything. But Tony, one thing that Sam said in his press conference this week, he said that he has to stop making easy things hard. And that's what he feels that he's doing right now. He's got to play consistent, but he has to, as he said, stop making easy things hard on himself, Tony. But Tony, we can go on, but you know what? We got to wrap it up. And as you always say, Tony.
We never say goodbye. But this time we're saying new players that don't play, we're telling you goodbye. Everybody else, we're saying in a minute.
In a minute.